So yeah, thank you, Teala, for joining. I am really uh, grateful to have you here because, to be honest, I am grateful to have you here because you are the only tarot reader who was accurate for me every single time, and that was the reason why I called you on the show. So, how are you doing?
Oh, good, good, good. And thank you so much for having me on. I love the work that you're doing on your channel. It's really benefiting a lot of people. So I am happy and honored to be here.
Yeah, so technically, the reason why I called you in is because you are really, really competent in what you are doing. And thank you for doing the amazing work, really. So, if you don't know, guys, I actually booked Stila for 2 readings, and she kind of never failed in her predictions. So you last time when we talked, you kind of gave me 3 answers. The first answer was what Lilith wants from me. The second answer is that there is a certain person who wants something from me, who actually attached herself to me. And the third answer was regarding my work with the Fae. And regarding all the 3 answers, you were 100% correct. And because I'm calling you a year after your prediction. So you told me stuff in there which you couldn't know when you did the reading. So I purposefully wanted to say this in an interview because in an interview, because I wanted to kind of surprise you here, especially third and second prediction. So the third prediction was kind of regarding the Fae and regarding the work with the Balkan spirits I was doing. And you told me that the work with the Fae will not leave me away from the spirits I am working with in general, but you
Mhm.
told me that it will be a completely different working. And at first I was like, Tila has to be wrong because all of the spirits have same path to ascension, right? So I was like trying to tell you are wrong, but I suppressed myself. And now, almost year and a half after your prediction, or almost 2 years after your prediction, few days before this interview, I was doing a really heavy working with the Fae, and they told me something which is really really interesting. So they told me that technically lower entities, aka chthonic entities, entities of the underworld, like Satan, for example,
Mhm.
they seek to merge us with the divine through dark energy.
Mhm.
Some kind of celestial entities, they seek to merge us with the divine through lighter energy. But they more or less have the same goal to merge us with the divine, only the means are different. But regarding the Fae themselves, they are completely different animals. They actually don't care about merging with the source in general. What
Mhm.
they care about is preserving the natural world. And when you work with the Fae, there is something which they call crossing over. What it means by it. So Fae live in a world we inhabit. They simply live in the same world we do. We simply don't see them. They live in a different aspect of our reality. And to come into the world of the Fae and live among them forever and become one of them is called to cross over. So what Fae want is they want you, if you work with them as a magician, they
Mhm.
will give you much more material benefits than demonic entities, which is something not known commonly. They will give you information much quicker. They will empower your physical body much more than demons will ever will, because they are really much closer to human existence than demonic entities or angels. But what they ask from you as a practitioner is to cross over when you die. So you said something which you couldn't knew 2 years ago because you never kind of worked with the fae that much to speak about crossing over. And then all of those legends of people getting lost in a fairy realm make sense because that's exactly what crossing over means. In reality, those people are not lost, they agreed to cross over. And the reason why you cannot go and conjure so many ancient witches, right, is because
Mhm.
many ancient witches are not dead at all. They are not in the realm of the dead. They crossed over to the fairy realm. And that's why you cannot find many ancient sorcerers, for example, from Celtic lore or from Slavic lore or whatever, because they are not in the underworld, nor they are in the celestial realms. They are the ones who crossed over. And this also explains why, to many people, there are legends in Ireland. There are also some legends in America, slightly from Irish immigrants. There are also many Slavic legends of people being descended from the Fae. And if we take those legends of face value, then it doesn't make any sense. But if you take the concept of crossing over, then, for example, Teala, how many female ancestors you have? There is a big probability that one of them crossed over, because you kind of have thousands and thousands of females in your line, right? So, yeah.
How many people I know have crossed over to the fairy realm? Is that what you're asking?
No, but how many people in your, there is a big probability that some of your female ancestors crossed over to the fairy realm.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, no, definitely. Very possible. It's hard to say. I don't know much about the Fey realm myself. I'm not an expert on it. But what I do know, what you say makes total sense. Because when we do look at Fey lore, it's always within our realm. It's always within this world. It's just unseen. So it's not considered the other side of death. So everything you're saying makes total sense to me. And I definitely get where you're coming from. And I just don't know enough about the Fae world to really expand on it myself. I know I've been drawn to work with the Fae. I'm just really good at sidestepping.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to tell you this during the interview because you kind of told me this already, and there is no way you could know this. So, I really recommend Telia for everyone who wishes to have a tarot reading done because you know what you're doing. But can you tell us, like, how you started doing what you are doing? Uh, why you started, how you started?
Yeah, of course. So as a child, I was able to see human spirits, and it scared the living shit out of me. I'm not going to lie. I would see middle of the day, like stare right out of a spirit. Like it wasn't in my mind, it wasn't telepathic. It was with my human eyes. I was able to always connect and see the spirit world. As I got older, the demonic divine started connecting with me. The first time I started building a relationship with Azazel when I was like 10 or 11 years old, he was teaching me how to do shields and protection. But he also was trying to get me to overcome my fear. But I was also a kid, so it didn't really work that well. But he was trying. And then later on, I eventually find myself really drawn to witchcraft. When I was like 12, I actually got involved into kind of like a coven, but it wasn't like a demonic or working with the dark pagan gods or anything like that. It was very kind of Wicca based. And then eventually, I just kind of got bored with it because it just wasn't connecting, it wasn't resonating. The light, love, like, is really sweet in concept, but I've been through so much trauma. My mom was very abusive towards me. She suffered from bipolar and schizoaffective disorder, I believe is what it was called. And she just would go into manic stages and just became very harmful. And then on top of that, we were constantly moving. We were very poor. We had no stability. So the light and love to me seemed kind of delusional. I'm like, this is not how life is. This is not the way things are. There is darkness. So about the time when I was 15, I found myself being drawn to the demonic divine, and I started working with Satan. And as I did that, it got me into using divination tools because now it was about acceptance, real self love. And there is a light within the darkness, but it's not like a fluffy version of it. And it's about accepting and understanding yourself and healing and transcending that, for me at least. So that's what got me into doing readings. I didn't do it professionally though until what, couple years ago or two, three. I don't know how long I've been doing it, but it took me a while to have the confidence to give people readings, despite the fact that I've had done readings for people. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so accurate. How are you getting this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like that was my response. I'm like, "I don't know how this works," but it did. And eventually, I gained the confidence to do readings for people, and now where I'm at today. So yeah, kind of a brief way of explaining.
So technically, I kind of study you for a long time. I watch your channel for a long time. And when we talk about your practice, two spirits kind of always come anywhere. So that's Lilith and Satan. So I was never like a Satan. Like I never worked with that specific mask
Mhm.
of demonic. I was more attracted to others. But because you are one of the few sane people who work with Satan, like who are not all doom and gloom and burn everybody, and like they live in their mother's basements. Like you are one of the few same people who work with Satan. What's your advice for somebody who kind of wants to work with Satan and to start that relationship and develop those astral senses and work with him as an aspect of the primordial adversary?
So, with what you're saying, it's amazing everybody has their own unique and different experiences. You were drawn to different deities. I want everybody to know that that's completely valid. And for as far as working with Satan, you got to be open minded because a lot of people have religious programming and religious trauma that they are holding on to. So, they have a version of Satan that's actually created an egregor that is the evil, that is the devil, and that feeds into that energy, and it's created from Christianity. It is not Satan though. So Satan in itself can be argued as a title, but if you actually look at the text where Satan's mentioned, like in the Old Testament in the book of Job, we're having a direct conversation between God and Satan. We also have that similar story within Jolibes within the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're seeing that with Mastema. So he has very interchangeable between a title and a proper name. But if we take it out into the concept as being more of a source being, of what many practitioners that do work with Satan is we see him as the source, the father of demons. So why one can believe that God created the angel, Satan created the demons and represents that primordial, dark, chaotic energy. But dark and chaos doesn't mean evil, or being a complete mess in your life. I have my own place. I run a successful business, and the spirits take good care of me. There is no reason to be consumed and be depressed all the time and destroy yourself and try to attack others. That is just people trying to escape their own shadow and not doing the work. Satan is about facing your shadow, about facing those traumas and really working through it. Why ascending? He wants to help you raise that energy and to connect with the source of chaos, the primordial energy that exists within all of us. As far as like how to work with him, it just depends. Everybody is different. Always begin with research. Anytime you're going to work with any deity, you don't need to spend years and years and years. I know some people are getting on TikTok now and they are watching witch talk. Just stay away from there. It's a mess. Most of it is major misinformation and a lot of fear mongering. The reason why we do research is so we know how to approach and respect the deities. You do not need to be an expert on a spirit to work with them. And then you're going to want to start with meditation. Find out if that deity even wants to work with you. Just because you want to work with Satan doesn't mean he wants anything to do with you. This goes for Lilith. This goes for Samuel. This goes for Zazel. These spirits have free will. Just because you call them doesn't mean that they are going to show up. So it's always good to feel if you're being drawn to that spirit, see if they're pulling you towards them. For you, you were drawn to Lilith, as I was too. Lilith is incredible. I love her so much. But anyways, working with these deities always requires the basic foundations: research, present offerings, do a ritual. If you're not getting results and you're trying to invoke, nothing's happening, you need to work on your psychic development because the spirit may be coming through. So meditate, work on expanding those astral senses, develop mediumship if you have the ability to do so. That one's a little bit trickier, but everybody has a soul, so you should be able to connect with your astral senses, but it takes a lot of work and discipline.
Yeah. So here is the thing. This is like a short note I want to give to the audience. And you will definitely agree with me because you have been saying this for years, just in different terms. So technically, bunch of people are kind of trapped in this angels versus demons, dark versus light duality. And what they do not understand is like, here's the thing. if there is only one source of creation, we will call God, right? So for a moment, we will see God not as a guy with an axe in the sky who is throwing axes on people he dislikes, but in the way he is described as a source of all creation. If there is one source of all creation, logically, then there cannot be evil Satan who is killing everyone. It cannot exist. If there is only one source of all creation, then that Satan guy can only be a little bit destructive agent of that source, right? So if there is only one source, and if there is some guy called Satan, the source is making Satan alive every moment of existence, just like everybody else. So if there is only one source, and if there is Satan who came from the source, then Satan can be only an agent of the source. So that entire doom and gloom dynamic is illogical. It's completely absurd.
Yeah.
And I really like that you are trying to debunk that shit for years. And here is the thing. So, how your shamanic training went? Can you talk about your shamanic training, your shamanic initiations? I wanted to kind of talk to you after that, but it wasn't meant back then. Back then, so can you talk about it now?
Yes, of course. And yeah, I'm 100% with you. We need to get out of the dualistic mindset. And you're right about your perspective regarding the source and Satan and all of that. So yeah, just to be clear with everyone, I do agree. Um, Shamanic. So I was doing journeying, and journeying is not the full thing of having outer body experience. I know people like to confuse these two. There's actually a lot of people that claim they're having outer body experiences when they're simply just journeying. But journeying is path working. It's where you go into a visual meditation. And when you enter into this meditation, you can enter into the realms while remaining into your physical body. And what really happens is you split your consciousness, allowing you to remain here while being into the realms. It's a very safe way to travel. When I was doing that, it was actually Lilith that came to me and started communicating to me, letting me know that I'm going to have awakening that is going to be awakening / initiation, guide me to a new path. From there, that very night, I ended up falling asleep and having a dream. In the dream, I was in a kitchen and I got bit by bats. Now, this is actually very symbolic for those who study shamanism. The kitchen actually represents the shaman's heart, and the bat is the type of medicine that you are receiving. And I wasn't sure what it meant at that time. So, of course, I meditated on it, and they're like, you're being initiated into shamanism, representing you are a vessel between this world and the spirit world. And that's where it kind of guided me to get actual training on it, because traditionally you can't just call yourself a shaman. And even now, I would never call myself a shaman. That is a title that is given by that tribe or community that you are part of. And takes like 20 years. Like if we're talking about like traditions, most people are trained for like 15 to 20 years to be a shaman. But because we're in the West and we tend to kind of appropriate cultures here, we've downsized it to 1 or 2 years. So I don't fully agree with like the shamanic training of the West. I'm actually planning to do training out in Peru. That is my end game, because I'd rather get trained by an actual shaman versus a white person that claims to be a shaman, just because the whole thing to me is a little bit thin. But I did get into it to gain deeper understanding. What I did find is they were teaching us how to do a technique that involves helping people heal their inner ones. And I was already doing that. The spirits taught me how to do it. So what I was getting trained on, the spirits told me how to do directly. So I ended up, because it was so expensive, like it was, oh my gosh, it was like, for just a couple of months, it was like almost 4 grand already for that training program. So it was just insanely pricey. And plus, she had a problem with black magic and my YouTube channel. So I ended up actually cutting ties off with her, but I was okay with it because I'm like, I don't need to get trained by you. The spirits literally told me everything that you're trying to teach, and you had to learn it from someone else. And she actually did get trained by someone that was trained by a shaman, so it kind of went down the lineage. But for me, shamanism is something that is the spirits initiate you into, or your tribe chooses you that you are a shaman. And it's just about being a vessel for you in the spirit world, bringing the messages, tapping into higher dimensions. This is the same thing a medium can be saying, except we do journeying. So we actually do a lot of travel in the astral realm. So we're not just receiving and downloading information, we're connecting to the other worlds.
So technically, there is one piece of your uh, speech, Teala, which I have to ask a question again because this is really relevant to me as a person. So, what exactly hat symbolizes in a shamanic symbolic map?
The
Because you
bat.
said something. No, hood, like hood. You told me that hood symbolizes something.
Did I just say that just now? Hoot.
So I kind of misheard something, but you said kitchen symbolizes something. Yeah.
Oh, the kitchen. I was like, what? I just got lost. I'm over here trying to think. I'm like, what? Yeah. So the kitchen actually is symbolic of representing the shaman's heart. And it's just their symbolism. It depends what culture you go in, because shamanism is very cross culture. And the word actually kind of derives more by like an area closer to Russia. And like Native Americans did not call their people shamans. These are just a name that we added, and it just spread it, and it's been accepted. Um, but in certain cultures, the kitchen represents the shaman's heart and the symbolism of that you're opening, because a shaman is to be connecting to the spirit world and connect to the realms. You do have to connect to the threads of consciousness, meaning you have to have compassion, empathy. And that's why so many empaths are psychics, because you can connect to the threads that are being weaved by the void, by the realms, however your perspective or opinion is. Now, that doesn't mean you can't curse or do any baneful magic. No, there are shamans that will destroy you, that will literally kill you with their magic. They are very powerful. So they have both. They're balance between darkness and light, working with the world of upper and lower, and then here into our current, which is considered the middle world.
So here is the thing. I need to tell you this because you again speak about things you couldn't possibly, plagiarize or something. So when I started really heavy work with Lilith, really heavy invoking her daily, invoking, playing, bringing aspect of her, which made me really ill for over time, and going that through that initiation via illness and working with her despite of that fact, I started having a series of dreams, which repeat even now. And those dreams are like I am like in some wasteland. Sometimes it is a desert. Sometimes it is a forest. Sometimes it's always a type of a wasteland. We know Lilith, so we know why it is. And it is always really dark hut. And within dark hut, I am sitting and Lilith is cooking something or preparing some potions. And now, after years of having those dreams, I learned a bunch of shit in those dreams because what happens is usually he is cooking things, and the things she is putting into the dish are the things I should be studying. And the it's always interesting that like what happened is I have been shown literally spirits coming out of a cauldron, like really interesting thing. Like what you need to study will literally come out of a cauldron of blood in those dreams. But I finally now know what it actually really represents. So the cauldron, the heart is my own soul. The cauldron is the alchemical process, and Lilith is the initiator. So thank you for decoding me that. And what you also couldn't know is about 2 years ago, uh, before I messaged you. So before I kind of messaged you for that reading, before I booked your ass, right? Uh, a guy tried to kill me. He was actually a shaman. He was trained in traditional Walachian shamanism, and he was also trained in Siberia. Uh, trained by actual people. and he was saying the same thing about the three worlds and the three realms, and
Mhm.
the lords of the underworld, the lords of the higher world, and the lords of the middle world. Like the same thing you are saying, word for word, sentence for sentence. And I actually started working with the faith in order to defend from this guy. I told you that already, but he literally told me the same few sentences you are telling me now. So yeah, that's also what I want to tell you now. But here is the thing regarding the journey, you need to be really careful because now I know that what I have been doing for previous months have been journeying via meditation. For example, I sometimes need it. Now you told me right now that it's journeying. I didn't call it journeying. I call it just trying to astral project, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but when I realized that it was real, this summer I became again involved with beef with the same guy, right? Because I became bored and I wanted to have a beef with the guy to kind of fuck with him a little bit because he fucked with me last year. And I unintentionally like visualized in my journey that I was in his village. And then I entered like in some houses in that village and I fed up fed off on some people. And then he calls me next day and tells me, "Did you curse this individual?" And I was like, "No, nobody booked me to curse the individual." And he says to me, and then I figure out, wait a minute, I actually visualized I was in his village and I vampirized some people. And then I figured out it was actually a real thing. It wasn't just me imagining.
Yeah,
So
that's journeying for you. You can have an impact on the physical world.
yeah, but here is the thing, like he had the beef with some of my close people, so it was like a vengeance. Because I always strike eye for an eye. I am really like not tolerant in that manner. But what I am saying is like you can do that journey and have a direct impact on a physical world. However, there is a one piece of that journey I do not recommend, which is trying to cast love spells this way. Because love spells, I mean actual love spells, actually pushing someone, that's extremely difficult and extremely complex. And if you try to do the journey to cast love spell on someone, the only thing you really can do is to harass them. Love spells are something extremely complex, and so I am telling this to people because in a cold community, everybody tries to do love spells via journeying. You know that that's really common. Like someone likes someone, and they like soul project, and then try to like cast a love spell on you astrally in dreams, and it's like, but the thing is, it's always terribly done. Like they never like do it properly. It's more like retarded harassment than anything else. And I really ask my audience to like don't do it because here is the thing: if you want to do it to somebody you actually hate, so it makes sense. But when you do it to a love interest, it's simply a bad way to do what you want to do, right? If you do it to an enemy, fine, right? But if you do it to somebody you actually love, it's retarded. It's not. You're gonna do nothing with that. So yeah. So technically, uh, can you talk with us about how your journey,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how you do that?
So before I jump into that, I just want to clarify for the upper, middle, and low world, that is the teaching within shamanism. So that's not something I just made up or anything. Just to be clear for those who are watching, so there's no confusion. That's actually taught. Um, Now, as far as how I journey, so journey, like I said, think of pathworking. When you read like Asenath Mason's book, she's one of my favorite authors that is out there, and she has pathworking methods. Same with other books that wrote and talked about working with the demonic divine or within the left-hand path. So it's very similar. So when you are journeying, pretty much you are accessing your imagination. Now, at first, there's a good chance that you are creating the space entirely. It's like when you are daydreaming a little bit, but you're starting to shift into the space. So where I like to do is always start and connect with the void. That is where I'm connecting with pure darkness. And then I make a conscious choice to split my consciousness, knowing that my body will be here and I'm going to go into the space and journey. And then I open up a portal, whatever my intention or wherever I'm going to go. So I open the portal and then I enter into the realms. Now, journeying, one of the things I want to talk about as far as safety is you can lose your soul doing this kind of work. Journeying is really dangerous if you don't trace your steps back. You need to make sure that you know where you started. If you open up other portals, make sure you remember all those portals, because parts of your souls could literally be stuck in those realms. So you need to make sure you protect yourself. So it's not the same as out of body. Out of body requires even more additional protection, but it's always good to just shield yourself and just make sure you know all the steps that you take. It doesn't need to be exact imagery, but you need to understand all your portals and access points.
So technically, what I suggest for the audience who want to try this type of thing, because I really do it. Sometimes I do it to guard people. Sometimes I do it for not so much benevolent purposes. But there are few advices I want to give to the audience because we are having the same topic, and I think there is a lot of information which is wrong on this issue. Uh, I do not recommend people to just start journeying. There are certain preparations you need to take. There are certain alchemical processes you need to pass through. So the best thing I can recommend for everybody is choose a deity first. Choose a deity. For my journeyings, personally, I chose Morana, the Slavic Lady of Death. But I also do it with Lilith, and to a degree right now and recently with Kali and Samael. But Morana is the main. Then you should summon the deity and start building an astral form you will use in your journeys. And then after that astral form is actually formed and completed with its own abilities, powers, and affinities towards certain realms, then you should start journeying. Because then you will have a concrete astral form which is not susceptible to this kind of a nonsense. And you have your form, Teala, and you developed it mostly with Satan, Lilith, and Belial, so you are safe. But I am talking because yeah, because a lot of people they just start journeying and it kind of never ends badly in most of the times, but when it ends badly, it's terrible because majority of those shadow attachments it comes from bad journeying and bad evoking. And I think bad journeying is most prominent because nobody cares about the dangers of journeying. They have like those big seminars when they force people to visualize shit, and a lot of those people journey and then they worry how it fucked up. It fucked up because you motherfuckers teach people how to kill themselves. So yeah, but
Yeah, that's true. Can't argue with you. You're right.
yeah. So how you kind of started building your form for the audience here?
So my form, I wish I could be in that form all the time. I made her really attractive. I am a female. I don't know what you want from me. Um, and I actually, because so the way she has is she has multiple forms. Like I have created different tattoos that do add the protection and install the energy of other deities that I've worked with, that I've linked with. So their energy is flowing into me. I chose the type of outfit I wear, like everything. I chose the kind of hair that I look like. I chose the kind of, and you guys can play with it. You guys can put on armor instead of the armor is going to be for your protection. I'd use tattoos and infuse the energy to make it powerful, but the tattoos are not like black ink. It's like this bluish, beautiful color. I'm just really mystical in my mind, and I just really like to have this kind of personification. And you can be flexible and create it, but a big part is setting your intention and focusing and building it. Same with when you first start, I always recommend start with an astral temple. Don't go into the realms yet. Create your space. Learn to protect. Learn to do invocation. Make sure you even have the ability to do that. Learn to communicate with deities. These are things that are going to help you have an effective journey. But the way I just built it, it was just purely within focus of my mind. It came very natural to me. I actually started building mine when I was a little kid. And then she has a lot of cool powers and can manipulate all kinds of different kind of energy. So it's fun. That part is fun.
Yeah. And technically, Teala, what I have to say here is this. So you mentioned astral armor, like forging literal astral armor. You mentioned it. And you kind of blew my mind because forging literal astral armor is something I also had to do. And I also actually needed to summon Chernobog, which is a spirit you are also familiar with, uh, to create my astral armor alongside Morana in order to protect myself when I fought this guy again. Uh, and the thing is this astral armor, we see it as armor when we look at those astral planes, but in reality, it's not an armor. It's like a cocoon you have around your aura, which increases the immune system of your aura. So when people attack you, what they do is they, even if they call spirits, those spirits rarely come after you directly. What they do is they simply program your aura so it self destructs. And it usually works from the more surface aspects of the aura, and then it goes to the deeper forms of your energy body. So the person who is under painful work always has time. Now, what that armor does is it's like a cocoon, which is below the surface levels of the aura. So when somebody curses your ass and your aura starts to program for self destruction, that shield you embedded in the aura protects your aura from negative energy put by enemies, and it also warns you that it is done upon you. So you have more time and more alert system to remove that shit. So that's actually what armor is.
No, I like that. I agree too. So that makes a lot of sense. I know that I've had a lot of people that apparently have cursed me, and they haven't even made it into my area to make it even close to any of my protections or wards that I have. I have so many type of protections in my home. I don't know why. Like, it just seems extra. I think I like certain things just for the hell of it. But I I've had one person that kind of got through, and it's just been one person. And that was because I let my guard down just out of curiosity. Like, and then because the spirits, the deities that you work with, like if you try, this is why I don't get why people want to curse so much with deities, because if that other person, like let's say I try to curse you with Lilith, imagine what Lilith is going to say. She's going to laugh at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm not going to curse
But
one of my other children. That's obviously not going to happen. So,
so here is the thing. I will tell you what will happen in that case. Because here is the thing. Me and the guy who cursed me. So that guy from Serbia who cursed me, right? So how I started working with the Fae. He curses my ass, and I
mhm.
cannot remove that shit. So nothing works, right? So I try demons, I try Jinn, I try everything, and it doesn't work. So out of my desperation, I called the fairy queen. And then she explains to me they kind of didn't remove because they wanted me to work with you. They wanted you to start it path working. Also, you saw this, and this because he did this, and this, right?
Mhm.
And so what happened is I removed that what she cast upon me. And then we fight next time this year, right? And we start fighting, and here is the thing, it becomes dumb. It becomes dumb because when he does something on me, I summon his deities, they tell me what he did, and then I remove it. And then it happens back and forth. When I do something to him, they tell to him. And when he does something to me, they tell to me. So it
Oh,
becomes like a arranged boxing match. And that's exactly how it looks when people who work with the same spirits curse each other.
yeah, I don't go around.
It doesn't.
I haven't even cursed anyone till this day. I have not felt the need to do so, but I think that's why I probably haven't. I don't know. I have, however, have attached parasites to people. So if you really do piss me off, I have a more satisfying way of destroying people that doesn't involve deities or anything, and it involves
Tilia,
getting
look, Tilia, look. We have to like talk because like here is the thing. People misunderstand what the curse is. So for example, if I want to curse somebody, I don't want to like think for 5 hours how I want them dead, because it makes me feel bad. It makes my
Yeah.
body to be bad. It makes my emotions to go down the drain, right? What I do if I want to fuck somebody is I summon Lilith, then I rise the aspect of the soul of somebody I want to fuck in my circle. It can be done pretty easily. And then I bind one of the Lilith who is kind of pretty vengeful to the motherfucker. So what you are doing with parasites is
It's,
technically you definitely don't work actually with parasites. What you work with is the shadow dead, right? So you work with shadow people who are kind of between dead and shadow people. And within a demonic hierarchy of the cliff what we operate in, Nama rules those guys. And those guys are one of the most difficult things to deal with because they walk in between the worlds. They are like the Fae, but they don't guard nature. They actually walk between the worlds and feed upon the living. Uh, and the Nephilim from the Bible, uh, if you summon any of the spirits of those guys, they are actually those tall shadows, really, really tall dark shadows. So what you are doing, Telia, is definitely curses, and not only any curses, but really powerful ones. But how
yeah,
you started doing it?
versus because I'm not sitting there with a candle. I'm not getting a puppet. I'm not doing any of that. I do it all astrally, which I guess is technically a curse, though. But I don't do it often. You would have to really piss me off because when you do get that on you, good luck getting it off. So
Yeah, it's difficult to remove because I was attacked by them. Actually, Chernobyl also has spirits who do the same thing. The thing with them is they have a really nasty specialty to go into your aura pretty deeply, pretty quickly.
oh yeah, no, they can
So
make you hurt yourself. Like you'll do it to yourself because they go so deep.
yeah. So then you kind of need to really go balls deep into your aura to remove that shit. And if you are talking about spirit who is sent by a magician, not about random parasite, then you have a really big problem because those spirits have a mechanisms to resist your attempts to remove them. But here is the thing: whenever somebody is cursed, right? This is simply how the universe works. So whenever somebody is cursed, they will come across people who can help them or techniques who can help them. Only people who refuse to help themselves will be completely destroyed by it.
Yeah, sure.
Because whenever somebody cursed my ass or somebody from my environment's ass, there was somebody who knew somebody who could help them. The problem is people are simply spiritually lazy, right? When something
True.
obviously paranormal happens to them, dude, you see shadows on the wall. Dude, you see three-dimensional dark beings eating you at night in 3D reality, and you physically see them. And dude, you hear knocks around your room and you do nothing about it. Who
Yeah.
is dumb here, right?
Yeah, no, I there's a lot there laziness is a problem. It's a major problem within our community. That's why they don't get some of the results that they want, but that's okay. It's on them. What can you do?
Yeah. So, Tilia, what I wanted to ask you is like, you are kind of weirdo in this community because you are the only weirdo who actually managed to make a spiritual progress through divination. Like, people usually do curses to ascend or evocations or divinations, but you are kind of really the person who spiritual ascends through divination. That's your main technique. That's the main thing you do to evolve spiritually. And kind of I am interested in how you do that because that's something I am guided to do by Lilith, but I am completely retarded regarding the issue. I don't know anything about it. So how you do it?
So for me, the path of ascension is always spiritual and less about the witchy part for me. Divination is just a tool to use. I don't need to use cards. I don't need to use runes or anything. I can directly communicate with human spirits or the demonic divine or any deities for that matter. But I did start off with tarot cards. So that helped me develop that ability, because the more you do and more you practice and exercise your senses and work with divination, you learn how to develop other senses. It naturally just starts flowing in, and you just naturally become stronger. For me, I've been doing tarot readings for really long, and then I started doing automatic writing, because I'm like, okay, what I noticed when I was doing the tarot readings is I was receiving telepathic communication from the deity or from the human spirit. And then I was getting validation from the client. And I was like, oh, maybe I can get direct messages without using cards. And then it went to automatic writing. And now I can even expand on that and help people connect into the realms. I can take them into journey spaces and have them communicate with the deity and help them connect and bond with them. That's why I offer those astral links service. So people that are truly devoted and dedicated and ready for that type of commitment can have that. So it has naturally expanded and grow, because when you are communicating with the spirits directly, they tell you what you need to do. They tell you how to work. Right now, I'm about to get my ass kicked, and I'm not excited for that, because I got Abaddon, Sarath, and Semyaza that are going to team up on me, which that's going to suck, but it'll be good. So, but they take me through to the journeys and through all of it. So I haven't done evocations. I do invocations, but mostly it's just I connect and I'm open, because I am a medium. I can communicate, and they tell me what I need to do. So that is how it's helped me. But I add a lot of focus into people taking and reclaiming their own power. And that's where the witchcraft comes into place. You can control and manipulate your reality. So I feel like the ascension is your growth, the spiritual, why the magic is the manifestation of what you have achieved. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but you mentioned Shemyaza, and because I work with a guy right now also, but I am with him in what I like to call mini path workings. So you know, when some deity you work with guides you throughout to other spirit to learn some shit, right?
Yeah.
And you are to that spirit to learn the shit you are supposed to learn. So recently I summoned Lilith, and two friends of mine told me that they have pact with Lilith, but they were unsuccessful in fulfillment of the pact. So they wanted to transfer their pacts with Lilith's acceptance to me. So they wanted me to get their pacts transferred in order for Lilith to stop bothering them, because they are really fucked up. So I summon Lilith and they summon Lilith, and we agree, all three parties, to do this. So they transfer their pacts to me, and how it looked like somebody literally puts enormous amounts of energy into your aura, like two additional cloaks. It was really intense. And then I start fulfilling the obligations of those two people as well as mine to Lilith herself. So if you don't know, so I am speaking to the listeners because you know this, right? But I need to say this really important thing about the pacts. Pacts don't have to be a binding contracts. They can be a reciprocity deals, which is you summon a spirit, and spirit tells you the terms under which you will be guided and taught. So, for example, you summon Lilith, and Lilith tells you, I will teach you and be your guide if you do this, this, and this. And the amount of time you spend doing this, and this will be correlating to the amount of knowledge and power you get. And that can be a pact. It doesn't have to be a binding contract, because the thing with binding contracts is that people do not understand the seriousness of it. Majority of binding contracts in modern witchcraft ends terribly, because people do not understand the seriousness of the binding contract. So I took their two binding contracts, and then I made it into a really powerful reciprocity deal. But in order to make those two binding contracts into a reciprocity deal, on my side, I have to ensure that what Lilith gets from reciprocity deal every time I do it will be equal to those two binding contracts, which was difficult. I have to do some pretty difficult stuff. But in that entire process, I received some pretty interesting information. So, we all know that God is the source. It's not a guy with an axe. So, if we know that God is the source, then the names of God given in the scripture are not the names of any entity. There are the tools we can use to manipulate the source energy directly, right? So
Right.
every time you pronounce those names, if any entity comes, you are doing it wrong because then you get attached to an egregores, right? Because bunch of people create a bunch of egregores associated with those names. What you really need to do is you need to use those names the way they are originally meant to be used, which is to manipulate the source energy. And what people do not understand is that spirits hate lazy motherfuckers. So if you are not capable of manipulating the source energy, spirits will over time lose all respect for you. Because if you, for example, practice 5 years and you are not able to manipulate the source energy in any way, in any method, then it means you are lazy because they provided you the tools to manipulate the source energy. And if you don't use those tools, then they have full right to kick your ass because then you are trying to use them to do everything for you without you understanding anything, which is not something they are supposed to do. So, uh, Tilia, how you kind of work with source energy personally?
So I definitely agree that, because like I said, that was kind of my whole point of the witchcraft thing, that we ascend, we grow, they give us the tools, and then we take the power. Like, they're not going to always protect you. They're not always there meant to hold your hand. They will step in if needed, but you do need to have your own power. As far as source energy, um, I think it depends on your perspective and all of that. I channel source energy to do Reiki on people to help them heal, to help remove energy blockages, to help remove psychic blockages, things like that. I also channel Lucifer and Marbus. One can say that all these deities we work with are aspects, constructs of the source, and we are also aspects or constructs of the source being. So in a way, we're constantly interacting and communicating with the source. So it's learning how to channel, bring that energy in, and transfer that energy to get the results you desire. I think it is a very basic thing, and I'm with you. Like, the spirits will bounce. Like, you're saying, kick your ass. That's if you're lucky. Some of them will straight up just abandon you and forget that you even exist. They are forgiving, they do have patience, but if you're not moving, you're not taking the steps forward, why should they care? Why should they waste their energy on you? You don't deserve it at that point. So they can and step out completely out of your life.
Yeah. So technically, because I have a lot of people like talking about Lilith, this and that, and I definitely invest a lot of effort into really presenting Lilith, what she is, and the complexity of the being. And you know, and I know you watched some of my materials, and I also watched some of your materials. So we definitely agree that she is extremely complex being. So, what's your experience with her? How you started up working?
So forever it took me, because I only worked with strictly with Satan for years, and I was actually uncomfortable working with other deities. Lilith didn't really give me a choice. She's like, no, we're getting over this. We're not playing games. I'm coming into your life. And she actually used other people, and they started messaging me. It's like, hey, I don't know if you know who the spirit is, but her name is Lilith, and I feel like she's trying to get your attention. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, I don't know what to do with that, because at that point in time, I was strictly working with one deity and I was in my comfort zone. And she definitely wanted me to push my boundaries. And so I finally ended up doing a ritual. And it's a full-on ritual. I do an invocation and I chant Marag, Amma, Lilith, Ramag, Samalo, Namaha, if I remember correctly, and I could just feel her power. The entire room becomes really heavy, and you see like this red aura filling into the entire room. And this was before I was accessing my mediumship abilities or anything like that too, because I did block it out from childhood trauma. Anyways, side note. So I was connecting with her, and I could literally feel her entire body feeling into mine. And she helped me with my Kundalini Awakening. She helped me heal my inner child. She helped me realize that there is no war between angels and demons. I need to transcend duality. She's the one that helped me get out of myself and helped me get away from the ego mindset so I could actually truly progress. And she also taught me how to set boundaries for myself and to be able to not let others walk on me or be so easily naive. So she gave me a lot of guidance, actually helped me both within the physical and spiritual. So I love her. But yeah, she is complex and she doesn't work with everyone. She is picky, in my opinion.
Okay, I kind of agree with everything you said. And the thing is that there are two groups of people. One group of people sees Lilith exclusively positively, aka creatively, and another group of people sees Lilith exclusively as a destructive being.
Mm,
And how I should phrase it is that Lilith is a destructive, but she is destructive in a creative way.
yeah,
She's kind she's kind of really a destructive being, but the destructive role she fills in is necessary. For example, it is said that she takes care of the souls of aborted and miscarried children. So people misinterpret this. They claim that she turns them into demons and blah blah blah. So if nobody takes care of those souls, what happens is those souls remain attached to humans and then they wreak havoc. When
right.
you pull it into the picture, she takes the soul, gives it new existence, and then that soul has certain purpose, which is regulated by the laws of the source, and he is actually creating less havoc. So ironically, the average Lilith demon creates less destruction than the average restless dead guy, because majority of possessions you actually deal with as a practitioner from people coming your way, and people deal in general is not demons or dark spirits, it's restless dead guys,
Yeah,
because for the restless dead guys it's easiest to come and they have the biggest amount of motivation to go there, because the restless dead guys do not have any source they feed off. Demons have black sun, celestial spirits have celestial energy, elementals have their currents. What do restless dead have? Absolutely nothing. So they have to attach, they have to feed, they have to survive, and they are the problem. So when you are turning the spirits of those people into demons, you are actually doing damage control. And that's exactly what Lilith does. Lilith does damage control. Also, when we talk about Lilith bringing illnesses, for example, right? So she is definitely associated with that as well. That's also a damage control. Imagine if you let rabbits breed, like rabbit, really small, benign animal. If you let them breed without any regulation, they would like make the world into a desert. Fucking rabbits, right? So the illnesses Lilith brings, they are also the damage control. Her role as a sexual initiator, that's also damage control because she teaches you how to use your sexuality for magic without making babies. Imagine what would happen if every single intercourse created a baby. We would fucking destroy everything, right? So it's also a damage control, right? But
right.
people don't understand that you need damage control. You need Lilith to do those destructive things in order to remove the amount of destruction. So you cannot deny that she is destructive, but you cannot also deny that she is necessary. We need her energy, we need her current. You cannot live and exist, anything would collapse without those forces balancing things out. And that's what people don't realize. Also, like Satan is the lord of baneful magic and the lord of dark mysteries, but he is also the lord of the protection and dark wisdom, right? So actually, without Satan initiating those destructive processes, world wouldn't exist because world needs those destructive processes. And so without understanding what is the role of the spirits we work with and how they make the world run and the world exist, you will inevitably either stop ascending at all or make retarded mistakes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So, can you tell me like about your Kundalini awakening with Lilith? Because I actually saw that post with two red candles almost burned out and you doing Kundalini awakening for 3 hours. Can you talk about that for a while?
Yes, yes. And then after this, I do have to go because I am running out of time. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So with my Kundalini awakening, so I spent a really long time. I'm glad some people are like ascending so fast, but it took me a while to actually have a Kundalini awakening. So I finally said, you know what? I need to call upon Lilith. I'm gonna have her help me with this. So I ended up getting and set up a ritual for Lilith, and it did go for 3 hours. And it was so interesting because I was invoking her and asking her to help me. And I can find my body moving in strange positions. It was almost like I was possessed to the extent where she can control and move my body, causing these movements to help me receive and open. And I had to do this after a day of fasting so I can get myself more open into the space of just allowing myself to accept and kind of stay up really late at night. As this movement was happening, I could literally feel as if fire was breathing down my mouth into my throat to feel into my body. And then I could feel the Kundalini serpent began to ascend, began to emerge. And it literally was a big moment for me because it changed a lot of my perspectives, and I'm constantly changing my perspective. What I say today could change next week. I am always on the path of learning and growing. You can never stop. It's just there's always something more. But it really made me feel so good and so grateful to be alive. Like I was in pure bliss. It wasn't like being down or torn apart. Like the Kundalini for me was experiencing bliss. Like I was completely outside the ego. So I didn't have the attachment of the world no more. I didn't have, so the versus like some people, like it's for them, they're not ready for it and losing these attachments break them. I was happy. I was in pure like ecstasy when this happened, and it lasted for a few days. But I also found my body was rejecting meat. Like I couldn't eat, like I tried to go eat McDonald's a couple days later and I was literally like puked it right out. Like I couldn't even down that kind of toxic food in my body now. So like it literally changed me on a physical level. It was just absolutely incredible.
So you need to go in like 10 minutes, but can I ask one last question? What's actually the ritual you did, if allowed to say? Like, did you light any candles or did you simply invoke this? You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I lit candles. All I did was a simple invocation and asked her to come through. And I set my intention. I do not do super complex rituals or anything like that. I'm not going to go out here and draw a bunch of symbols on the floor. Great if you do that. What works with you is fine. But I am a simple person. I sit there and I present my offerings. I always offer a little bit of my own blood with Lilith because I am a female. I do have the grace to be able to offer menstrual blood, so that really helps. I connect and I just allow her to come through into my body, and I do a very deep channeling, and then I just allowed it to take its course.
Okay. So you have to go, Telia. I won't bother you anymore because I respect your time as you respect mine. But really, thank you for coming. And I would be glad to invite you in the future when you have time. I know you're really busy. So, yeah, thank you for coming, Telia. You have awesome readings. And also, I learned much more than what I expected from this interview. You really kind of unlocked a lot of mysteries for me. I hope it was the same on your side, and we will definitely speak in the future. So let me stop the recording and thank you guys for watching this, and peace out.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.